very, very dangerous.
Hit the spidey sense, I was like, oh, something's off.
And I'm just like, man, I'm waiting to hear something,
Keep that crowd warmed up. Is Mr. Yahola Tiger.
What's going on, guys? And welcome to another edition of the Warcry Podcast. I'm your host, Yahola Tiger, and on this edition of this podcast, we're making our way slowly. We're inching to that 100th episode mark, and I'm still plotting on what I want to do. Now, part of me wants to bring in a guest. Another part of me wants to do my own thing. There's just so many avenues I can go down for the 100th episode. And as we creep along, I'm going to be bringing y'all some interesting topics. We haven't talked about a lot of these topics. And so on this episode, we're going to be talking about vampires in native culture. And also, I'm going to be reviewing Sinners. I've given it a couple weeks. I saw it, the advanced screening. I saw that like before anyone else could because of Cinemark. Shout out Cinemark. But we're going to be talking about that. But before we do, I got to get this stuff out the way. Patreon, YouTube memberships, links will be in the description below. You need to join. There will be, after the 100th episode, I'm plotting on interviews that I want to do. That will be only members only. So you'll need to get over there. You may get clips. You may get previews. You may get, maybe a half episode. Like with Hunters of the Paranormal and Weird Maine Paranormal. Those two episodes that are out on YouTube are only half the episode or a quarter of the episode. I went like 2.5 hours with those guys, but the full entire episodes, we get into all types of crazy stuff. But those are on the members only in Patreon. 7-day free trial on Patreon, so get you 7 days, soak up all 100 or it'll be 100 soon. Right now it's 98. This is the 98th episode. But you can get everything on Patreon. I'm gonna slowly figure out a way. I know it's probably easier than I think of getting Patreon and Spotify on the same wavelength. So you'll be able to purchase through Spotify soon. It's getting summertime, so the podcast will be slowing down after that 100th episode because of summer. I love summer. Y'all ain't gonna catch me inside. Another thing, Not Your Grandma's Quilting is a sponsor of the show. They just recently put themselves into a place, a antique mall, and their stuff is showcased. They're partnered with Toad & Co., which is another sponsor for the show. It's an antique. You can buy on Shopify. I think it's Shopify. Now, I might be getting this wrong, Toad & Co., but y'all need to let me know. But they're trying to do some things online. They're a Facebook marketplace, so Not Your Grandma's Quilting. You can find that stuff at Family Treasures Antique Mall. That is in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, Main Street. You won't miss it. It's across the street from Booker's Bar. In that, I think there's a faux place in those big apartments. So it's just right across the street. You'll see Toad & Co. there too as well. If you go up to the front desk, say, hey, where is Toad & Co. and Not Your Grandma's Quilting? You just ask the front person and say, I'm looking for Toad, and they'll tell you. I like that name, Toad. But anyways, they're at Family Treasures in Broken Arrow on Main Street. Go check them out. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there, but they got a lot of cool stuff. Baby receiving blankets. I know Mother's Day just passed. Soon there'll be more quilts. And also, too, if you just go to Not Your Grandma's Quilting and you send them a message, they're working on a Shopify over there, too, so you'll be able just to order online, ship it to you wherever you want to go. But they're working on that. So that's coming out pretty soon. But go and follow those pages on Facebook. I'll have the links down below. Now let's get to the show. So another thing that has kind of coincided with the Sinner movie, and you know, kind of the soundtrack came out. As you guys know, if you follow me on TikTok, I'm a pretty big Jerry Cantrell fan. He's the guitarist of Alice in Chains. He's also, you know, does his own thing. He just dropped a new album, 2025. My favorites off that album right now is Off the Rails. Just sounds like Lane's in there. Lane Staley, from the singer who passed in 2002. It just sounds, man. That song just gives me those old vibes. But go check out Jerry Cantrell's new album. Also, my cousin it's funny. I have heard this story, you know, bits and pieces of it over the years from my dad and others. And, you know, my cousin Aaron and my dad doing the interviewing, you know, shout out to my dad for asking the questions that everyone wants to know. But this is that story of him trying to meet Jerry Cantrell, but also too trying to get his stuff published.
All right, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. All right, who wants to start it? This is a story of. We're going to leave the names out.
No, we can do it. Yeah.
My cousin's Aaron, his getting his tape to Cantrell.
We were in a band in high school called Under the Hill,
Yeah.
and we would sit around my mom's computer and just like record guitar tracks to MIDI drums, like fake drums.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this is the perfect demo. It's like, I don't know how we came up with
I don't even remember how we got the idea to go down there. We saw his house on MTV Cribs, and we saw the Rooster video, and it shows his mailbox. It says Atoka, and there's his first album's called Boggy Depot, and there's a big road down there called Boggy Depot Road. So we figured it couldn't be that hard to find. So it was a Saturday we went down there, and took our demo CD and wrote a letter and left your home number on it because we didn't have cell phones.
You could tell, like, I kind of told him how it was like, we know a general idea, like, where this place is. So his dad came along.
Because he's a master manipulator.
He knows enough about tractors, so I guess.
Yeah, we knew he had a farm, and we didn't know how to get there. And Atoka's not that big of a place. So he said, pull into this farm insurance place. And he goes in and tells the guy he's looking for Jerry Cantrell's house because he knows, what was his cousin or something? Something like that. I don't know. He'd have to ask Dad. But somehow he gets into this guy's truck and takes off with him. And we're sitting there and we don't know what's going on. And he comes back and tells us how to get there. When we went to the wrong driveway, we were taking pictures of that house.
Oh, just some random house, yeah.
And these people's car came and followed us down this dirt road and cut me off and got out and was like, why are you taking pictures of my house? I was like, sorry, I was looking for my friend's house. and he's like, oh, well, you just go down here and this way. And there's a church sign and you turn left there and you go down, a couple miles and there's his ranch. It's got a big double J sign, Double J Ranch.
Huh.
And the gate was locked, so we just left our little letter on there and our CD. And
What year was this?
04?
04, yeah.
We just graduated, I think.
Yeah.
Or we were about to graduate.
Yeah, we were still in school because people were asking about it, yeah.
Yeah. Then about a month later,
Oh, yeah. We get a phone call from, I don't know, my dad answered the phone like he normally does, like, hello, Shakota Bingo, or whatever he does, or however he did it, and he's like, hello, who, what? Aaron, I'm Aaron. Jerry Cantrell. That's hilarious. Like, Aaron, you got a phone call. I was like, what? And he said, hey, this is Jerry. Like, hey, I like the sound of your demo. How'd you get my place? And I just told him whatever.
I was at work.
You're at work, yeah.
And he came to McDonald's and told me I walked in like something bad happened. Like, it was you, Mary, and your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they walked in and they just looked all pale and looking at me, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, he called the house.
He said he called. I said, "Who called?" He said, Jerry. And I was like, "No way." He had caller ID, so we got his number.
Yeah, so we still have it.
I got it somewhere.
But yeah,
I talked to him a couple of times. He's a cool guy.
What track was it? A track or was it a certain?
it was like 3 or 4
I think it was like five songs we had.
like instrumentals because we didn't
have a singer.
have a singer.
Didn't he play it for Kid Rock or something?
He played it. He said he played it for Kid Rock on their tour bus because they were touring at that same time.
Yeah, that's what he mentioned something about that when I was on the phone with him.
It
But
was like track 4 is like, I was like, dude, I wrote that one.
this is the only one I didn't have a hand in right.
But yeah, he played it for Kid Rock. Kid Rock liked some of it. And
That's about as far as it went, but it was cool.
Yeah. Did you get like a backstage pass or something?
we almost did. It was for Cardboard Vampires.
Yeah, his cover band.
Yeah, he was playing with ZZ Top.
Okay,
We went to the show.
We went, yeah.
that's awesome. So that's the story. After all these years, finally.
Never heard it.
Yeah, man. That I forget. I was sitting here laughing because when I heard the song or the story the first time, I laughed. And then every time because you can hear it's one thing about going, being around family like that. Y'all just start laughing like that, man. That's just I love it. And I'm glad my dad got that story from Aaron. And I want to. The reason why they were all together is, we had a family member pass, and it was kind of sudden like that. So my thoughts are with my family over there out in Shakota, and hopefully they hear this and get a good laugh out of that, because that's a lot what happens, man. We don't really come together unless it's somebody's death, and that makes me sad. But I'm kind of in a spot where you lose somebody and it's hard to go back to where they were at. And that's a lot of it for me. But I'm glad my dad got to go down there and see, our Kiowa Muskogee Creek side of the family, and got to hang out, and you can hear people in the background. Everybody's chatting it up back there. But that's Jerry Cantrell's story that I have been, I've been asking about it for a long time, and I'm glad I finally got out here on the podcast for y'all to listen to as well. And you're wondering, like, what does this have to do with vampires, Yahola? So Jerry Cantrell was on the soundtrack to Sinners, the movie that just came out with Michael B. Jordan. And that was a perfect segue into Sinners, the movie. That movie is an experience. It is when I left, me and my wife went to watch it early viewing. I couldn't quite put words into the amount of detail and the amount of history that a lot of people don't really talk about nowadays. It's kind of a I don't want to say hidden history, but it's just not talked about. And the Mississippi Choctaw, and you had the Irish, and you had the Chinese or the Asian community, and the Black community. And it just gave a lot of metaphors and a lot of insight to how it was back then, but also to kind of how it is now. And there was a couple flashbacks. Now, I want to say this because I've been hearing this a lot from a lot of Christians. And if you're in this group of people, that's one thing that I think drives me more nuts, is when there's a certain experience or certain movie or music, and it's deemed, oh, that's satanic, that's sinners. Oh my God, I can't go see that. You start clutching your pearls, and you're grabbing your purse, and you're, oh no, we can't. It says sinners. We can't go see that because they're talking about things that just are not. I just can't. My faith will be tested. That is what is wrong, and that's what that movie's telling. The movie talks about in that. Some of that. The movie Sinners is starring Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, a few other people who are in, and I can't think of their names off the top of my head. and it follows Michael B. Jordan, Stack and Smoke. He plays two twins, and they're trying to open up a juke joint, blues juke joint. They just moved back from Chicago, and there's a lot of tones in that. The younger guy who's the blues player. They always this has kind of been a thing for a long time, especially when it comes to like Robert Johnson, and then people thinking that he sold his soul, which he probably did. He might have, and people always saying that the blues was kind of demonic in it because of that, or it was the devil's music because it gets you all gyrating and vibing out. But that is the backbone of what music is today. It is. Y'all can sit here and be, oh no, Elvis took a lot of that stuff from Muddy Waters and a few of these other juke joint players who end up being prominent blues musicians. There's certain vibes in country right now that you'll hear a little bit of that. The kind of the picking. It's called, I guess they call it like pick playing, where you're just picking. It's not really like chords; you're just playing. And he wants to be a famous musician in this movie, the young man. And I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. But when he plays the blues so good, they think it opens up a portal to let in these demons when they vampires. And he's battling with his father, pushing him towards the church, and he wants to play blues because he's good at it. He can sing and play, and he's having trouble. He's having that pull, and that was one thing that I never really understood. And maybe black people, if you guys listen to this, which I need, I'm kind of curious on what y'all think about this, but I'm not going to cover the entire film. I'm just going to kind of give you the high points. And so then they open up the juke joint and they start playing music, and these vampires show up. That's the premise of the movie. Now, there are details in this that I literally kind of got like, not choked up, but I really, it hit me in a certain way. And how this pertains to natives is there's a scene in the movie, and everybody's seen this, that Remick is the vampire. He's an Irish vampire. And he's running in the sun. He's trying to get away from somebody. And he's going up to the door. And he's banging, please, hurry, please. There's engines coming to get me. There's engines coming to get me. And the woman says, there's no Indians around here. They're gone. And when she said that, there was like a tinge that hit my back. It was like up into my neck. Not anger, but just kind of like that. It's kind of the epitome of how people view natives. Like some people don't even think they're still around. It's from 1800 stuff. They don't think we're still around and living and kicking up until here. And people. I've told this story before, but I used to work at a call center for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Years ago, and I had people from New York and Los Angeles and Florida. Some of these Florida they were like, oh, your name, what is it? What is that? It's Muskogee Creek, and they'd be like, oh, do y'all still live in teepees out there? Or they'd ask me, do y'all even have transportation? Do y'all ride horses still? And I'm like, yeah. You don't really know how to answer because these people are just ignorant, But it's just it's weird. It's one of the weirdest experiences to be kind of not forgotten about, but kind of forgotten about. And when she said that in that scene, he said, "No, they're coming. Well, I need help." And as you look into the house, it had a Klan outfit. And Remick adapts to that. He understands, this is how I'm going to make my way into this house. She lets him in. And all of a sudden, these vultures, or I think it's vultures. I kind of, at first, thought it was crows, but these vultures showed up. And the Mississippi Choctaws come riding up, and they had their little cage that they were trapping him in. And it kind of gave you a little preview at the beginning of the movie, kind of in picture form, or it might have been in the ending credits. I can't remember, but I saw it online, and it talks about, in picture form about these beings, being around natives, and natives knowing that they're here and they're around. And so when those Mississippi Choctaw come showing up at the door, and he said, "Is there a man here? We're looking for this man." And she's like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. You need to get off my porch." Being all rude. He goes, "Okay, well," and in that Choctaw language, he's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna say this prayer for you, and I wish you the best." And she kind of scoffs, and he kind of had this look on his face, like, "Yeah, you're in trouble." And they all looked at each other, and one of the guys behind him whistles and says, like, "It's time to go. We need to get home." And he's like, I hope the best for you," and walks away. And I've seen a lot of people online being like, "Well, why didn't they help the white people and the black people? They knew about these things." And it's funny, the lack of awareness. For a lot of years, we've been telling y'all about some of these things. Bigfoot, shapeshifters, little people. We've been talking about these things and telling you about them for a long time. Not just me, elders before me. They said there's things out here that are not natural. You don't know. We don't know nothing about them. Y'all don't know nothing about them, but we know, and we're telling you, we're here to help you. And a lot of times, those Europeans, now Americans, kind of scoff at us and say, "Oh, that's crazy. That's not real. There's nothing out here." And then guess what? They get took, or something happens to them. In those days, the things that were roaming, we didn't know anything. Y'all didn't know anything about them. They're showing up on this land where these people are telling them, "Don't go to this location. You may not come back. It's dangerous." And Europeans scoffed and said, "I got a gun. I can." Sometimes a gun don't work against, what's out there. And so they kind of nod and they look, and the sun's about coming down, and okay, well, and then the movie ensues. But I heard that a lot. And then there was also people out there that were saying, this is exactly what natives have been saying, and this is a small piece of how our voices are not heard all the time, even in podcasting right now. I just did an interview with Squatch and Holler, and I mentioned briefly, this is the other day, a lot of non-natives are reporting and talking about, telling stories about native things that they don't know, and they chalk it up to myth, or it's those mystic Indians just talking about, what happened in forever ago. And a lot of times these things are still happening, and I'm going to get into some things that have happened recently regarding these blood medicine type things. I don't like talking about it, but I thought I'd give you all this episode because that scene hit me hard, and then the aftermath after that, and people were talking. They didn't come back and help them. They knew all about them. And if y'all haven't heard me say this, and other native podcasters say this, we were told to always be inside at night. We never, we don't ever go looking for something at night because it will find you and it'll get you. That's always been a thing. And that's part of this. It's a very kind of a nuanced way of saying, we know what's out here. We want to go to the safety of our homes, because if you notice in the movie, guess who has to be invited to come into their home? They have to be a vampire. They got to be invited. And a lot of times they'll knock on the doors and they'll, try to get their way in by seducing you. And like in the movie, they seduced and one of the characters, and then they also will get somebody and try to make their way in. And so that they can take over. And there's a lot of different like greed, gluttony, um, lust. I think the seven deadly sins played a part in this too as well. Different aspects of each character. Um, and that movie is so fascinating. So if you have not seen Sinners, you need to go see it. I don't know if it's even still in theaters right now, but when it comes out, you need to go. You need to watch it, even if you are someone who feels like it's testing your faith. If a movie tests your faith isn't really that strong. I'm just gonna keep it 1,000. If media is influencing you and changing the way that your faith is, then your faith isn't that strong. That's just the way it is. But that scene in Mississippi Choctaws really had me thinking about a lot of different stories that I've heard and a lot of different, um, I guess you could say, beings that have been talked about. And I just told a story on the latest This Is Creepy about these entities, this being, this person who knows how to extract from people. And there's different legends going all the way around. I commented on somebody's post, just kind of detailing what I believe or what people were asking about. Oh, does natives actually really know these things are out here? And one of the beings I just recently talked about, is a raven mocker. Now, is it really sucking the blood and taking that from people? Not really, but it's taking the heart. But it takes those things to extend its life, and that's kind of what these vampires do. If you guys know the mythology behind vampires, I'm sure everybody does. I'm talking about the Edward Cullen vampires. Everybody, my Twilight fans out there, I've only watched the first one, but I have a hard time when they start glittering in that sun. Just rough like that. But one thing that is about vampires is that they have, the legend and a lot of the kind of myth, way it's explained is that I know that some people think vampires are a metaphor for gay people or the LGBTQ. Um, Back in the late days, that's kind of how they described them. Maybe that was also something I was seeing online, and it was kind of villainizing that sect of people, which we always find ways to do that to people. Um, it's neither here or there. Mind your business, I guess, is what it comes down to, and them portraying these entities and these beings as this sect of people is just something that's always, I think it's always going to happen. And I think back in the older days is kind of how it was, but that's another kind of caveat. Another caveat is that they're real and that they're out there. Louisiana, New Orleans has always gotten the rap for vampires. Stories have been coming out. I heard an energy vampire story that I'm not sure if I even believe it. It's kind of crazy. Basically, that they were stealing essences and stealing. People call it loosh, but I don't really like that word. It sounds weird. But it's like a essence is being drawn out of that person, and that's kind of what's being happened. And they do that to people there. I know people talk about Count Saint Germain. They're saying he's been living forever, and he's holed up in Louisiana. And a lot of it to me is kind of, I'm not sure really what's what on that. But vampires as a whole, I'm gonna say this, I think they're out there. People say if werewolves are real, and werewolves are real, I believe it. I believe it. Bigfoot is real. I believe it. Um, Something passed around mermaids. I'm like, I don't know about mermaids, but it might be. But that's one thing that in native culture we have seen these things. And when I mentioned before, I commented on somebody's video. Someone from the Cree Nation uh, replied back to me and said, "Yeah, we have these things in our histories." I can't pronounce the name. I'm not gonna lie, but he said that those things are there. They've been around for a long time, and they blend in. It's kind of like, people talk about aliens blending in, but these things they're out there, out in Cree Nation. That's out in Canada. There's all these different stories, and another, I have mentioned Buffalo Hunter, and that really made me feel some type of way as well. And that story is about a Blackfoot Indian who becomes a vampire, and he and his war party come up on this overturned kind of, looks like a battlefield of such, and they're making their way, and they see this cage, and it's got something in it, but they can't really see, and it's kind of getting dark, and they had like a cloak around it, and I'm visualizing it as I'm telling you guys, but they open up the thing and they step in and they see that there's all this meat laying around around the cage and in the cage, and they're like, "What is going on here?" And they look in there and they see it's a being, and he's like, "What?" And they end up releasing this thing, and luckily they were saved by a enemy bullet. Right, but the main character, Good Stabs is his name. He was bit, and he wakes up like days later, and everyone's dead, and he's not, but he's all burnt to crisp because they would burn the Indians' bodies after. So he goes on this journey, and he comes to realize that the more blood you intake is, if you drink the blood of a four-legged, or if you drink the blood of a long hair, all these different animals, and the way that he describes them, talks about them, that you become that. And there's a part of me that is interested to know if maybe that's what we see. Maybe we don't understand. Maybe someone doesn't understand, or someone who is that way. You become what you eat, and that's always been something that you hear too over the years. So he drinks a lot of these different animals, and he can tell that he's changing. His body is morphing, and he goes on this journey to kind of exact revenge on something that happened in his childhood. And the story also follows a preacher, or I guess it's a priest, and the priest was had a kind of a seedy past, and he writes down in this journal the story of this Blackfoot Indian called Good Stabs, and years later, his descendant finds the notebook wrapped in buffalo hide, and she begins to read the story, and that's how the story begins. One thing about that book that really made me rise, like I was really upset reading this, and especially the words being said. Not upset, but it really perturbed me, irritated me. Is the priest that basically didn't care. He said he didn't care about anybody, really, and the way he treated some of these Indians just it just makes me really upset, and it makes me think that's just a story. But you hear all these stories of out west, especially, trying to kill the savage and save the man in these residential schools, and that's one evil, and that's colonization, and how this religious aspect took over a people. And you see Good Stabs over the time that he's a vampire, and over the years, that people are starting to forget their great grandfathers. They didn't ever know who they were, and they forget where they came from, and you find out why they're forgetting in this book. And I'm not going to ruin it for y'all, but y'all need to go read it. Buffalo Hunter. It's a twist, and it literally made me feel just like Mississippi Choctaw felt, in that time frame in Sinners. Is like You guys have overtaken us, and you have dressed like us. You have, uh, you have become European. You've become colonized, and there's nothing we can do. It's too late. And another part of that too is Buffalo Hunter is because he's the Good Stabs is basically hunting the buffalo hunters, and that's why it's called that. And that's plotting his revenge because of them slaughtering every single buffalo and poisoning the meat, and then the natives will come and take the meat and then die because they poison the meat. So it's a lot. It's a lot of just it's rough. It was a rough read, but to understand a point of view that maybe isn't yours, I would suggest that you read it. And that's my book of 2025. It no hands down, like no doubt about it. It is 10 out of 10, and the ending is I'm not going to spoil it, but it's very almost, I don't know how to say it, but it makes you it brings something out in you. Trying to correct the past of your ancestors. And there's a lot, some people may say, "Oh, it's woke," or it's, "Oh, this is just propaganda trying to make Indians seem like they're the victim." And it does talk about how some natives or Indians were turning on other Indians, selling out, so hopefully they could get good favor with the cavalry and the government there in that time. And it happened. There's nothing, not, everybody was innocent in a lot of this stuff, and it's very complicated. And but it's just like what we see today. It's just not right. It wasn't right, and you're giving people these impossible tasks. Well, you need to be a scout for us, or we kill your entire clan. We kill your entire people that are sitting, that are over this hill. That was the ultimatum given. So most people understand. Well, I need to just suck it up and do this, and be someone who I'm not, just for my people. And that's what really made me, you know, understand me. I have worked in a lot of different aspects in recreation. I've worked in non government. I've worked in nonprofits. I worked in government as these things, and that was one thing that I noticed about me specifically is that and I've said this on different lives before and episodes. That there were hills that I died on that I probably could have been better at, or maybe compromised who I was, and at the end of the day, my goal is for the people. That's why I got into these certain fields, and is try to make things better and more efficient for people, who are paying taxes for this stuff. And a lot of times, upper management was like, "Oh, well, we need to do this because it's easier for us." And sometimes it being easier for the worker and the employees sometimes always isn't the best for the people. It doesn't always align, and that's another reason why I just can't do it anymore. I can't compromise how I feel, and that's a lot at a much higher risk. In this book is being given an option of joining me, the evil that is evil, or the unknown. And sometimes a lot of people would rather have the devil than the devil you don't. But Buffalo Hunter, I cannot say it enough. I was a little preachy there, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to describe how I can describe things in the way that I comprehend things. And my fifth grade reading level was having trouble. No, I'm just kidding. But Buffalo Hunter and Sinners, those are my movies of the year. His Sinners got a 5-star from me. I haven't given a 5-star to a movie in probably 5 years, but that one got a 5-star. And then Buffalo Hunter is 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5. It's 100% from me, because of the way that they both of these forms of media interpret a lot, in the time and place that it is. I could not even imagine, being a black person, a sharecropper, nonetheless, battling the KKK, but also battling this vampire, and also battling the church. It's rough. I know there's a lot of people trying to deconstruct from those ways, and I don't blame them at all. I don't, I have done a lot of deconstruction of my beliefs, over the last couple years, because I don't understand the unquestioned. I'm a person who questions things. Why are we doing this? I need to understand the why. And a lot of times when I would ask those questions growing up, it's just because we need. That's just what God has us do. Okay, all right, but I just can't do it anymore, and that's and my beliefs will never align with someone else's. And I always tell people, your God is not my God. And people kind of look at me when I've said that, like, what do you like? What? Like, the God that you worship you worship the Christian God. I don't worship that. I worship the God, and I give my thanks and my prayers to a God that you know isn't that one. And there is a higher power. There is a creator of this world. Nothing. It doesn't make sense to have it blown up in the Big Bang Theory, and then here we are evolving. That just doesn't, in my head, doesn't make sense either. And that science is a religion too as well. There's a lot of people who follow the science, and science is not made indefinite. Things change. That's why they call it a hypothesis or a theory, conspiracy theory. Just saying. So those things have really had me thinking. Those movies, and I mentioned the Raven Mocker earlier. One thing about that being, and I've never really got a clear understanding. And in my head, I'm trying to piece together the information that I have of these beings and of these people or witches is kind of how I was described. Muskogee Creek say witches, and Cherokees call them raven mockers. And I've told that story about my grandmother, and the things coming after her, and hearing talking and just weird things going on while she was passing away. Like something was coming for her. And I just told him the last, this is creepy, about a woman out of Jay, Oklahoma, telling me her story about a family member passing. And they were coming home from a softball game, and you could hear them coming. It's not like they're like, and it was, daytime, but it was getting dark, and you can start to hear them talking. You can hear them coming. It's a certain sound, and I can't describe it. And I mentioned at the very beginning, I had a relative who passed. Well, my dad had heard them coming, and they're always around. They're always coming for something or somebody. And it's not everybody. So if you're hearing this, you're like, oh my God, I need to. No, they don't. I don't know I don't know how it works. I just know that that's how it is sometimes. And, I had a conversation with Squatch and Holler and a guy named Ken Shivers, and we just did a live stream on his episode, on his platform and YouTube channel, and they talked about when someone passes, you stay with the body, and that's why. That's why you stay with the body, is these things will come. They want to get that last bit of essence to extend their life, and I was always told that growing up, is you need to just there's always someone designated to watch and stay with the person, even if as they're dying. So always somebody with them. And one thing that was really weird, and my dad was telling me this a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, is that he heard talking. He heard them coming. And he knew something was like something was about to happen. He didn't really quite know who it was or where. But I think that we're connected to them in some way. I don't really know how, in terms of maybe my family, or because it is dealing with, I call it blood medicine. I just don't know how else to describe it. Maybe if someone can educate me on what to call it, I'd be appreciative of that. But he could hear him coming, and then he told his cousin said, "Hey, I heard something the other night. Wasn't really sure. The dogs, my parents' dogs that they have over there, are my dogs technically, but they were over there and they got real scared and they started to try to come in the house because they could hear something that they didn't know what it was and they were scared. And those two dogs, man, they'll eat anything. They'll kill if you come within their little fence. Oh no, it's on. Like if you're an animal or a cat, no, they're coming for you. They're gonna crunch on you. But they were scared of something. And he tells my dad tells our cousin, he's like, man, I might have heard something like that too. I can't really. But then we had a relative pass, and my dad thinks it was Ravenhawkers. They were coming. They knew something was coming, and they were trying to get to that person. And you stay with the body, and you make sure that they get a safe passage, to the next life. And a lot of the stories and the legends about the Ravenmocker is they take their heart and they take certain things like that because the heart produces blood. Blood. There's something to the blood. I don't know. I know people say, "Oh, it's they'll use the word. I don't want to say it on YouTube, but the chrome is what I'll call it. People talk about that a lot, and that there's something in the blood, and I believe that there's something in our blood that, in some people's blood, that's just more potent. In the Buffalo Hunter book, they talk about people that have this certain blood, and it's not like actual material blood. It's something. It's an essence in the blood that they just can't get enough of it, and that's what they look for. They try to find it anywhere they go. These vampires, and I wonder if that's real with these Ravenmockers, is they know somebody's got that something. There's something to them. I don't know what it is, but I need to have it. And even in uh, Sinners, this kid could play the guitar. Man, he was great, and Remick wanted a piece of that. He wanted him. He wanted to make that his and know and understand why he's so special. And so there's something to that. You see it through all medias, and especially two separate medias. You have a native telling a native story, then you have a black guy in Ryan Coogler. Stephen Graham Jones is the author of Buffalo Hunter, but he's telling a specific thing, and he's talking about people who have this special thing, and these vampires want it. And you have Ryan Coogler, who is the director for Sinners. He's talking about the same thing. So there's something to that. I don't know if it's just maybe copied, but I believe in it. I believe in energy vampires. You ever just be around someone and they just sucking the life out of y'all? Just like, man, I can't be. This person is emotionally draining. I think they're out there. I think some people don't know that they are that, sometimes. But it is the vampire topic, is very nuanced and very, long history. Vlad the Impaler. But I wanted just to come on here and talk about that. Talk about my thoughts on these, because in the book, it talks about wanting to be something different, wanting to, be maybe someone you're not, and that's the main vampire. And it even talks about in that book like his passage over to the new world and how he was excited for new blood and things. Just weird. It was just, man, it just made me like, ugh. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any comments, I'll run a part 2 of this topic. If you're any native nations out there or tribes that you have some history with vampiric-like blood-related beings, let me know. I know that there are other things out there, and I can't, quite pronounce some of the names. But also too, it's kind of interesting. Told a story, from an Osage guy a long time ago. It's probably 4 years I told this story. I had got this story from him via a live stream I was on. I can't remember the name of the live stream I was on, but I was on there as a guest, and he came on and was telling me this story and wanted to know if he needed to be protected from this. And And that's one thing too. I want to talk about this too before I go. Is I go back to you believe what you believe, and if you believe in that, there's power to that. So if you believe, if you're a Southern Baptist person and you believe in that, and that's your faith, that's what you need to sit on. I have a lot of people who will reach out to me and say, "Well, how do I get rid of these things? Do I need to go to a medicine man?" No, because you don't believe in that. You don't believe in that. You're trying to fight battles with the wrong type of weapons. And a lot of times, I always tell people if it's around, you just leave it alone. You go about your business, and they'll go about theirs. And that's with anything. Bigfoot, all these different other beings that are out there, um, creep in the night. They're always around. And that's one thing that people always ask me. They're always like, "Well, do I need this?" Use your faith. If you believe in your faith, or if you're someone who doesn't have faith, then maybe that's where you bring someone in and try to figure this out. I see a lot of people doing paranormal hunting, and they're using things that I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really know, about the paranormal and the prayers and things like that. I had Patrick Meekin on a while back in October, and he talked a little bit about how to get rid of it and specific prayers for that belief. And it's very interesting. It's a very interesting concept. And one thing about my podcast is I'm open to everything. Someone can change my mind. You will take information and resources and log them into this thing here and just and just it may load slow now. Sometimes when you got to upload something, you're like, God, it's only on 54%. That's me. I'm like, I'm just logging it. I'm just slowly processing until it's all the way uploaded, and then I'm okay. That makes sense. And but that's one thing that if you are someone who you heard what I said earlier, and you're like, oh, I don't really know, he might be of the devil. He is not worthy of my time and my views, and that's fine. I have people sometimes that will message me and be disagreeing with me, and that's fine. I'm not. I'm here just to speak what's in here for me, and if you are podcast listener, in my head is what I was pointing to. But it's it's an amazing time. We're getting so much information all at once. The next episode, I want to talk about a hodgepodge of different conspiracies. There's one conspiracy specifically that I am kind of worried about, low key. Like it kind of stressed me out when I heard this, and it's about an asteroid coming to Earth in 2029. And what does that mean? Underground bunkers are confirmed real. Um, I don't know. I really don't know. Um, it's crazy to think that there is something coming that could end us, and no one's talking about it. But I'll go into that. That's the next episode. That'll be 99. I may call that conspiracy potluck. Conspiracies of your choice, whatever it is. If you also too hear this and you're like, hey, there's a conspiracy to that I want you to talk about, put it in the comments. Let me know. That's going to be open for any conspiracy. We're just going to be talking about a lot of stuff. I may go live on this. And then episode 100, I'm still plotting on it. I may do multiple guests. I may, just do an hour with each guest. I don't know. But it's coming soon. And then after that, we'll see what happens. The summertime for the podcast will slow down. You may not get anything the entire summer. I'm kind of right now in a place in my life where I'm just not really in the mood to record as much. So it's getting nicer outside. My girls are getting older. We can do more. Bedtimes are not the same. It's like my kids are going to bed later and getting up earlier. So it's like, bruh, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Getting up at 5:30 and then like ready to go. So trying to get them ready and dressed to go out to their daycare, wherever they go that day. And it's brutal, but I appreciate people that have subscribed to the Patreon, subscribed to the YouTube memberships. I haven't been as dutiful about that, because I'm just, like I said, just not the time. But if you stay with me on this journey, we will get, you will get content, and especially after, maybe the summertime. October is going to be another crazy, crazy time for the podcast. I'm planning a trip with my dad to go to Arizona. Um, he lived out there for a little bit as a kid, and I miss my grandpa Tiger on my dad's side. I miss him. I think about him a lot, and every time I feel like I've mentioned this before. Like, I'm gonna end the podcast and just call it. You know, I think I did what I was supposed to do, and then more topics come up, more people reach out, and I don't have Facebook anymore, so people are probably having a harder time reaching me. But to do that, email me first, and then we'll figure out where to go from there. But email me realwarcrypod@gmail.com. Send me your stories, and also too, if you want to talk more, you can hit me on TikTok, or like I said, the email TikTok warcrypod. I've been posting a lot of music. A lot of music has been kind of moving me a little bit. There's some stuff coming out. I'm like, all right, this is kind of vibing out a little bit. And then X. I'm trying to get everything to a point where everybody knows that I don't have Facebook. I've had some people like, "Oh, did you block me, man? Oh, man, that's terrible. What did I do?" Like, no, I just don't have Facebook, guys. I just don't have Facebook. I got tired of being on that train and seeing things, and I'm just like, why am I investing my time in reading this post that's just going to probably make me a little irritated, or you know, I you know I always take my own advice sometimes. Sometimes I don't, but it's like, just step away. Just step away. And if it takes me a long time to reply to you, it's because I stepped away from my phone. I've just come to a point in 2025 where I'm just not worried about like what the internet's saying about certain things. I'm not going to get myself all riled up, because I see a lot of natives doing that, because I know that there's some people out there in the black community who are saying that they're the real Indians. Hey, if you want to fight and die on that hill, that's on you. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you fight and die on hills that are just not. You're just not going to win. You don't have the facts. You don't have the science behind it. You just don't have anything behind it. But it's. I guess they're calling it rage bait. People getting mad at stuff, but I don't care. I really don't care. Oh, they're trying to minimize. Let them do it. There's like literally a tenth of a percentage of people saying that. So just let them say what they're going to say. They're doing it just for the content. But that's kind of like where I'm at. So if it takes me a while to get back to you, it's not because I hate you or I'm ignoring you. I'm just living life. I'm touching grass. So I appreciate everyone who continues to support the podcast. I can't say it enough. I appreciate you. I've gained a few. I'm almost close to 1,000 on YouTube. I'm almost close to 1,000 on TikTok. So if you hear this, just go subscribe. Hey, do your thing. But subscribe, like, share, follow, do all the above. Not Your Grandma's Quilting is down below in the link below. Toad & Co., which is an antique online store, down below. They're trying to get off the ground and get you some of those cool, older stuff that maybe you need in your household. But Warcry Pod on TikTok, Warcry Pod on X, and Real Warcry Pod. Send me an email. If you want to talk about something, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. But I appreciate everyone who continues to support the podcast, and I will catch you on the next one.